Thank you, dear viewers, for staying with us. Many thanks to Manal El-Ebiari and Khalid Abdelbari for this comprehensive report on the first ever comprehensive strategic partnership summit between Egypt and the EU in Brussels. With us now in the studio is Dr. Ahmed Safty, Professor of International and Economic Relations and also the Regional Director of Lincoln University in the MENA region, Middle East and North Africa. Thank you very much, Dr. Safty,
Thank you, my dear,
for joining us. Dr. Safty, that was a historic summit. Where would you like to start? I mean, the significance of the visit, the timing of the visit, the main topics discussed. I mean, the floor is yours.
Well, frankly speaking, the significance of the visit itself, this is where I would like to start.
Yes, please.
Okay. Definitely, to have a summit where the leaders of the European Union are gathering together to meet with one president of one country, this is a very important thing to have to clarify. Okay? Because usually, if there is a summit, there's going to be a group of countries, European Union, with another group of countries, like North Africa countries, African countries, and so on. But this is to have a full summit with almost full attendance of the European leaders with one president of one country. This is a huge sign for the strategic importance of this country. Okay?
Of course.
We have had a very long relations with the European Union since 4 or 5 different decades. But the idea is, through that period of time, the relation between Egypt and the European Union have evolved different times. Okay? At the beginning, it was Egypt, before the revolution, that's almost 6 decades now, and so on. Egypt
before the July Revolution.
Before the July Revolution.
52, yes.
Egypt was supporting the European Union during the First World War and the Second World War. Okay? After that, it was an occupation relationship, more or less. And then, after the revolution, okay, of 56, and after we had like 10 or 15 years of very poor relations at that time.
You're talking about the nationalization of the Suez Canal here, 56.
This is the idea. The era where we had the colonization generally creates hateness, okay? So when you are going to go out from colonization into freedom, you have definitely, you cannot love those who were occupying your land and so on. This is a normal thing. Starting from 2000, this relation started to be stronger and stronger. During the last period, okay, of President Mubarak at that time, there was a kind of strength between Egypt and Europe. Starting from the President Sisi period of presidency, this relation evolved a lot. Okay, why? We have now in Europe, when we talk about Europe, we have to talk about 2 strategic countries.
Germany and France.
Right or not?
And the UK, but still,
definitely, definitely. But even the UK now is not anymore in the European Union.
Brexit, yeah.
Even the UK itself. Okay, so when we talk about them, we talk about Germany and France. During the last 10 to 15 years, Germany was one of our main partners when it comes to technology and industry and infrastructure and so on. And France was our main partner when it comes to defense, to armament and so on. Okay, so those 2 countries, during the last 10 years, the relation with them, which means the relation with the European Union, have increased rapidly to end up by being a strategic partner.
Can I also say that Spain and Italy follow, and if we look at even at the biggest economies, yes. I mean,
that's for sure.
Yeah, our relations with Italy and Spain are excellent and evolving, and there is cooperation in many fields.
We have a
within Europe, of course.
We have a constant policy. Egypt, during the last almost 15 years, we have a sort of constant policy when it comes with dealing with any problem. This constant policy, which is we are not going to get involved in any struggle that is not ours. We are going to be to the right side. We are not going to play politics. We are not for sale. I mean, Egypt, the Egyptian positions in any situation is not for sale. All of these things, there are principles, very bold principles, that led to having a constant type of policy that led to the fact that you can be a strategic partner. Okay. Someone like 2 or 3 days ago asked me what's so special about this summit. Okay, I mean, Europe has a huge relation with North Africa generally, Tunisia, Morocco, and so on. I told him, yes, this is true. They have cultural relation with Morocco and Algeria. They have trade relation with Algeria and Morocco, but they don't have strategic relationship. Why? You cannot have a strategic relationship only based on cultural and trade. It has to be based on different pillars. Okay? When it comes to Egypt, we have a certain geographic position that led to this type of strategic importance. Egypt is a main role player when it comes to any struggle in the Middle East. So this is one of the most important part. You have to share the feeling of or the importance of security. And when it comes to this, Europe is in need for energy. It was in need for natural gas when the Russian-Ukrainian war started on, and they had to shift from Russian natural gas to other countries' natural gas, and we were there to support them. They needed vegetables and fruits and everything during the Corona period, okay, and we were there to support them. This is a part. This is a very important part when it comes to the security side, okay. And even now, when it comes to the illegal immigration, this part, I mean, the illegal immigration itself, is very harmful to Europe. Egypt played a great role in limiting this illegal immigration.
And of course, when it comes to security, naturally, Egypt being the cornerstone of stability in the region and between the banks or the offshores of the Mediterranean. As you mentioned, Dr. Safty, I mean, Egypt is there in every file. There is cooperation with Europe regarding Libya. I mean, Libya was discussed, yes. Sudan was discussed, Ukraine was discussed, Gaza was discussed. Yes. Allow me, sir, to ask you first about Gaza. In the press conference yesterday, where President Sisi, Mr. Costa, and Mrs. von der Leyen were there, they talked about Sharm el-Sheikh, and you mentioned the fact that all of Europe received Egypt's president. We've also had it the other way. I mean, Egypt received the whole world in, yes, Sharm el-Sheikh, yes, some 10 days ago, yeah. So on the 13th of October, there was this international, yes, summit co-chaired, yes, by President Sisi and President Trump, and where the Gaza deal was reached. There was praise from Mr. Costa and Mrs. von der Leyen for Egypt's, and they described it as Egypt's wise voice and wise leadership, but there was also recognition from the three leaders that there is much more to do. And President Sisi talked about the conference in the second half of November of the reconstruction of Gaza, and Europe, through Mr. Costa and Mrs. von der Leyen, said they are ready to participate and have a hand here. Yes. I wanted to ask you about the European role. What do we expect from Europe in the upcoming phase, okay, regarding Gaza? That's
perfect. Politically speaking, we have always had allies. At the beginning, we were this area of the world, the Middle East area of the world. We were a little bit targeting the eastern corner of the world, okay? When we found out that it's not working, we started going towards the western corner of the world.
Okay, you took us from 50 to 70.
And then from 70 to until today. Okay. Almost until today. Okay. Definitely, USA will always be a cornerstone in any struggle or any solution.
Naturally.
It's the biggest force in the world, and this is a normal thing. But if we really need to see the picture more clearly, we have to understand that USA is a big player, but not the only player. If we are going to depend on USA as the only player, we will face a very tough time reaching any of our targets. We have to say that we have other cards as well. Before the Peace Summit, there was a summit in the United Nations, sponsored by or organized by Saudi Arabia and France, where almost most of the European countries recognized the existence of Palestine state. And then came the peace conference. Because why am I saying those steps? If not the conference in the United Nations, we would not have had the peace conference. Okay. Because Israel realized that they are losing points. They are losing very important allies of
They are
the
fighting the whole world, as they were told by Mr. Trump.
This is the idea. And Mr. Trump himself realized this as well. Because how can I support someone who is fighting the whole world? That doesn't make any sort of sense. Okay? So that led to the peace conference. And the peace conference is going to lead to the reconstruction conference. At all the 3 steps, Egypt played a role. It's like you and your brothers trying to disturb or to distribute different roles in one game. Saudi Arabia took a role with the knowledge of Egypt and the acknowledgement of the Egyptian politicians, okay, the Egyptian presidency. Egypt played a role with the acknowledgement of the Saudi presidency, okay. And in the peace summit is going to be a 3rd role. The idea is not only the finance, the idea is the sense of the reconstruction. We cannot reconstruct Gaza if it's going to be ruined again after 10 or 20 years, because this is a very expensive thing, okay? To reconstruct a whole country, you cannot reconstruct it only from the building side. Reconstruction does not mean having new buildings. It means having new life, new buildings, new economy, new industry, new everything. You cannot do that without a proper acknowledgement and a proper movement toward the state of Palestine resolution. And this is where we are going to depend on Europe more to practice its own pressure on that side. Europe is very important to Israel, by the way. Most of the immigrants who are going to Israel are coming from Europe, okay? Vice versa, most of the Israelis, if they are going to move from Israel, are going to go to Europe. They are either French, German, Polish, or whatsoever. Okay, so from that aspect, Europe is very important for Israel. Okay, and if we have their assistance to push toward not reconstructing Gaza before having a little bit vision about the solution of the 2 states. Okay, if we could reach that part, if we could have them as international troops on the land of Gaza, that's going to help us a lot in keeping peace in that part of the world, and which we need, by the way.
Yeah.
I'm always supporting the fact that we should have the help of other countries, especially if they were European, in facing the problem of, or in solving the problem of Israel and Palestine.
Well, Dr. Safty, I mean, you've mentioned a very important point that was highlighted by the head of the National Media Authority earlier today, Dr. Al-Muslimani, when he clearly said that there are differences in points of views between Egypt and Israel regarding how things should proceed in Gaza. And he said it clearly, that Egypt believes the reconstruction starts first, and that the issue of the disarmament should be delayed to a later stage, because it's not the main issue. But the Israelis want to put this as the main issue, so as to derail any movement forward. And they want to, the government of the war crime suspect, Israeli premier, is trying to derail the advancement of the peace deal. But, I mean, Dr. Muslimani was clear when he said that Egypt believes the reconstruction starts first. And again, about the international force, as you mentioned, that needs an approval from the United Nations, because this is how things should move forward. So I just wanted to highlight this point when you were talking. Finally, about Europe, I think that Spain, Ireland, Norway, and Slovenia especially took the lead.
Yes.
In Europe in the past couple of years. The change that happened in Europe, was it because public opinion changed there? Was it because of the Israeli genocide war and the fact that Israel didn't leave one war crime that they didn't commit? Or was it because also of the Egyptian efforts and the other players in getting Europe closer to us and to the just cause? The just cause.
Yes. Yeah. When we are going to clarify this, we have to be a little bit factual and realistic. Okay? The European policy is driven from the street, not from the minds of the leaders. Okay? So if the mood of the street is going to change, the leaders have to change. Because what is democracy? Democracy is when people elect their leaders. So if the street itself, the people who are going to elect the leaders, their mood is going to change, the leaders will have to follow that mood. Otherwise, the leaders are going to be changed.
And here I have to ask another question, sorry to interrupt. Does the same theory apply to the United States? Because public opinion has changed.
Yes.
And it drifted, and for the first time, 1% more Americans sympathize with Palestinians than Israelis.
Well, there is a change in the States, but does not have the same magnitude as in Europe.
Yeah.
Why is that? Different aspects. Number one, the number of Europeans coming from Arabian origins is expanding. The number of Arabs living in Europe from different countries, different Arab countries, is expanding. Okay? The number of Africans and Southern Americans living in Europe is expanding. You have to understand that the position of supporting Palestine is not only Arabian position. It's Arabian, Islamic, Southern American, okay, African position. Most of Africa support that position. Okay.
Speaking of Southern American, look at Brazil or Colombia,
definitely.
Chile.
Okay, and those are the main immigrants,
Venezuela,
the main people who travel to Europe, where they work, and some of them have the nationalities and so on. So the street itself, they have a certain, I mean, the number of sympathizing people in the street belonging to those schools is increasing. Secondly, the role of the social media. We have to understand that no more lies can be hidden. Okay, Israel before, 10 years before, 20 years before, was the only media player. They were showing their point of view, and that's all. So Europeans used to be tricked by the media that they
controlled.
watch.
Yeah, through the many moguls.
But they cannot control the mobiles. Okay. Now TikTok is not under the control of Israel. Most of the social media social media applications, they are not even under the control of the people who own the application themselves. Okay, why is that? Because everyone is participating in the media. So our youth, our young Arab people, were quite successful showing our point of view. And I have to say that now we have international channels broadcasting the truth about the news to every part of the world. This we did not have 20 years ago. Okay, so the last struggle which happened in Gaza, Europe was seeing it part by part, day by day, hour by hour.
On air, yeah.
No one can lie to them, and no one can accept this, especially the European nations, and even the states.
Yeah. And the crimes were horrific. From the killing of civilians, from starvation, from
the number, the size, and everything was unbelievable. Unbelievable. No one believes that this can happen at this time, at this part of the world. No one can believe this. This is not acceptable anymore by any human being in the world. What happened in Gaza is not acceptable by any scale, even inside Israel itself, by the way. Even by the Jew people living in Europe or living in the States, some of them went to the streets trying to object against this.
Dr. Safty, there were a lot of areas of cooperation discussed in Brussels in the first ever Egypt-EU summit. Trade. We've talked about security. We've talked about illegal migration. We've talked about Gaza and others. But I want to focus about trade and also the people-to-people partnership, because that was highlighted again in the President's words and also in Mr. Costa's and Mrs. von der Leyen's words. People-to-people partnership, not just money.
This is true. This is true. Well, Europe is the biggest trade partner to Egypt, by 22% of the Egyptian trade going between Europe and Egypt. Okay, so this is a significant importance. The importance of the stability of the Egyptian economy for the European Union is very high. Okay, through all the struggle or the challenges that we had through the last 15 years, Europe was very supporting to the Egyptian economy and to the Egyptian needs. Even in this conference, it ended up by having 4 billion as loan and the last 87 million as a grant. Okay, euros, I mean. Okay, so this shows the importance of the stability of the economy to Europe. And on the other hand, Egypt is in its way to become a main role player in the sustainable energy in the area. Energy is very important to Europe. They can depend on Egypt when it comes to sustainable energy, whether it's solar and so on. So the trade in this part, as well, the industrial boost which is going right now in Egypt. I mean, do you imagine that our exports to Europe was around 940 million US dollars of industrial products, okay, during the last 12 months, and 2-point-something billion dollars, sorry, exports of vegetables and fruits and so on, okay. So this is new part, to have a huge industrial products exported to Europe. This is not something we are familiar with. Why is that? Because Europe is keen to move some of its industries because of the economy of scale and the economy of production. Okay, they were keen to move some of their industries into Egypt and then to have the products backward to Europe again. Okay? This kind of a relation, this kind of trade relation between Europe and Egypt is going to increase in the coming period. They see the potential, and this potential itself, it moves us or takes us to the other part, people-people relationship. Okay, we have had, Egyptians have always had this kind of emotions towards the German. We were never occupied by German, by the way. We were never invaded by German, but we trust the German industry a lot. I mean, if you ask any Egyptian citizen, without knowing anything about politics and so on, if you ask him, what is the best kind of cars that you would like to have? What is the best machinery that you would like to use, and so on?
Well, it's not just an Egyptian stance, it's a global stance. Like
But
the German industry, you know...
it is, but it does not have the same, the same kind of emotion like it has to Egyptian people. And the French language, in spite of the fact we are a Francophone country, in spite of the fact that we don't speak French regularly, but still we have a huge number of Egyptians who learn French, and they admire the French culture as a whole.
And there's also love between with Italians,
that's right,
with Greeks. I mean, many of them used to live in Alexandria and elsewhere in Egypt. With Spaniards, with Portuguese. I mean, we've always been saying here in Egypt, the blood of the Mediterranean. This is how we say it here in Egypt. We have one blood. Yeah.
We were the shelter during the Second World War, by the way. They used to move from Europe to Egypt, trying to run away from the war, at the Second World War, and even at the first one. Okay, they used to run from Europe to Egypt. Okay, to survive the horrifies of the war generally. Okay, so this kind of emotional relation. And do you know
there's talk about cultural, there's talk about universities, there's talk about, you know, this South Med, North Med.
We are now part of the Horizon project,
yes,
which is completely huge. A huge project.
175 billion. I don't remember if it's euros or dollars, but anyway, it's huge.
It's huge.
175 billion.
This is it. And we are becoming a full partner in that project now, okay, after this visit. And it was very clever from President Sisi, when the French president visited Egypt, to take him to the Egyptian streets, to make him feel the tune of the people themselves, because you say people to people. So it's like he wanted to emphasize this note. It's not only political things, it's even the nation itself. We have a certain kind of, how can I say it, positive emotion towards the European people. And they love our culture as well. Most of the Europeans coming to Egypt as tourists, they love the culture of the Egyptians.
And even Eastern Europe, and speaking of tourism, I know that Russia and Ukraine are not part of the EU anyway, but you know, look at the Russian tourists or the Ukrainian tourists that used to come to Sharm el-Sheikh and still do.
Yes.
But I mean, there was this huge presence for Russians and Ukrainians in Sharm el-Sheikh, of course Italians and Germans as well.
Definitely, definitely.
So even Eastern Europe,
that's what I mean.
As a link with
Eastern
Egypt.
and Western Unit, both of them would love to come to Egypt because of the wonderful shores that we have, the Egyptian people, the nature of the Egyptian people. I mean, they don't just come to swim. No, they come to live in Egypt. Egypt is a place where you live in, you don't visit. And this is somehow their feeling towards, I mean, this is somehow we are different from other places in the world. I mean, when you come to Egypt, something changes in you. I know this because I have my friends who used to come to here, and that's the general comment. There is something different in here, okay? And they always come back. Not because of the Nile, but because of the love of the people themselves.
Yeah, and because of the Nile. Dr. Safty, also Belgium was one of the top European countries that recognized independent Palestine.
Yes.
Bilateral relations between Egypt and Belgium are also seeing a great development, and His Majesty the King of Belgium, King Philip, received President Sisi earlier today in Brussels. Talk to us about the Egyptian-Belgian relations and how they have progressed and how they are moving forward.
The relation with Belgium is special, okay? Because as I said, our relation with France, it has
Italy,
to do,
yeah.
and so on. Our relation with Germany, it has to do with other things, with the industry and
Speaking
so on.
about the influence in Belgium, the languages
Yes.
spoken in Belgium.
Our relation with Italy is more related into the Egyptians immigrating to Italy and working in there and so on.
Yeah.
Same with Austria.
Decades ago.
That's right. But with Belgium, it's historic. It goes back to the kingdom period of time. Okay, the Belgian king used to be a very close friend to the Egyptian kings all through the history, by the way, because Belgium is a country, it's almost like Switzerland.
There's also a Dutch influence in Belgium, I think.
Yes, but it's royal at the end of the day. I mean, it's like Switzerland.
Yeah.
They don't interfere in any kind of conflict. Their armament is at its minimum number. Okay, so their relation is more into the cultural kind of attachment. This is the kind of relation we had with Germany since the king period of time, the kingdom period of time. And it goes forward until now. This is the idea. Because all what we have had with Belgium is positive relations all through the time. Belgians used to be, they are very skillful craftsmen. And they used to travel to Egypt to teach the Egyptians certain kind of crafts. Okay? And on the other hand, we used to have Egyptians traveling to Belgium to learn and to get educated. Okay, this is the kind of relation we have with Belgium.
But Belgium has an architectural influence on Cairo and
somehow because they used to be most of the Belgian engineers at a certain period of time, they were the top engineers in the whole of Europe. And at the kingdom period of time, they used to get them to move from Belgium to Egypt to build and the modern Egypt and so on.
Baron is Belgian, or I don't remember.
No, I don't think so. I think he is either French or.
Okay.
But I don't remember. I think he's French.
I'll get it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, going back to our argument. So this is the type of relation we had with Belgium. Mutual respect to the culture that we have, and its historic relation.
Yes. Now wrapping up, Dr. Safty, because we only have a couple of minutes left, your overall view of the first ever Egypt-EU summit and your expectations for the future, because, I mean, again, in the summit, it was clear from the part of President Sisi, Mr. Costa and Ms. von der Leyen that they intend for this partnership to proceed and to fly. I mean, it was clear.
This is right.
Yeah.
This is right. Egypt, it's very important. This summit is important because
he's a Belgian. Baron Empin is a Belgian.
This is the idea.
Yeah.
Okay. So the summit, the first summit to be held with one country is with Egypt.
Yeah.
Okay. So that tells us one very obvious remark. When it comes to southern Mediterranean, Egypt is different. Egypt is the only country on the southern Mediterranean which is qualified to be a strategic partner to the European Union. And
in all domains.
And when they think like that, this is not a short-time relation or short-term relation. This is a very long-term relation. This is the first fruit we have from this kind of partnership. I couldn't wait until we see the second summit and how useful it's going to be for both sides. Okay,
it's next year.
I mean, I wish if we were alive at that time, and we might be here as well. And we are going to see that the second summit is going to be a huge boost. I mean, the first summit is a first big step, but the second one is a boost to the relation between us and them.
All right, thank you very much,
Thank you,
Dr. Ahmed Safty, the Professor of International Economic Relations, also the Regional Director of Lincoln University in the MENA, Middle East and North Africa region. It's been a great pleasure, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, my dear.
Thank you, dear viewers, for watching us. Please stay with Nile TV.